2025. We will call this meeting to order, and I'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Amendment and approval of the agenda.
I have a couple amendments I'd like to make, please. The first one is to remove the Crescent City Airport presentation. Airport Director Ryan Cooley just recently accepted a new director's position for the Arcata Airport. So he is in the transition process. So once they get a new appointed director here and get their feet under them, I'll ask them to come back and do a presentation for us.
Okay. You said you had a couple?
Yeah, the other would be the CIS insurance proposal, and I'd like to add that to Section 7, Item B.
We already have an item B?
I'm sorry, make it Item B, and then we'll make the approval and discussion of the IGA with the Marine Board Item C.
Sorry, say that item again that you want to put on.
The CIS insurance proposal. And then, yeah, we'll discuss that.
I have one just for consent, and that's the Able Insurance proposal.
Would that be regarding the same proposal I'm possibly talking about?
Yes, they are the same. That's why I think you guys are confused about that.
Okay. So it's the same proposal then.
Okay.
But I'd like to have a discussion on that
Okay.
instead of under consent.
Okay. Any other
Good.
changes? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to.
Okay, I will make a motion then to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Commissioner Coker?
Aye.
Commissioner Hollinger?
Yes.
And I as well. Okay, with the presentation canceled, we will go into public comments. I read my disclaimer here. The public comment section of the agenda is an item designated for any member of the public who wishes to speak on any issue related to Curry County. Please be advised that the comments that are made by these individuals reflect their personal opinions and have not been verified factually. Comments directed towards county personnel will not be tolerated in this forum. We encourage anyone with personnel-related concerns to address them privately with any of us after the meeting. And first is David Barnes.
I was last, actually.
Well, last goes first on the thing.
David Barnes. I just want to clear up something that was mentioned at the last meeting down in Brookings about a supposed secret account that I had made. I never did any such thing. I took some money that came in for LARP that was deposited in the Umpqua Bank, and with the permission and knowledge of Commissioners Herzog and Pash at the time, I left that money in Umpqua Bank instead of putting it in the LGIP. At the time, the LGIP was about 0.6% lower in interest than we were offered at Umpqua. So for the 9 months that the $2.2 million sat in Umpqua, it made over $100,000 more than it would have if I had put it into the LGIP. So there was no interest lost on that, Mr. Trost. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was about almost $12,000 a month extra interest, so in 9 months it was about $100,000.
Next is C. Roberts.
Be really short, I'm sure. I just want to communicate the frustration.
Wait,
that-
C, can you start with your name,
I'm sorry.
address? Yeah, go ahead. For the record.
C. Roberts, 16145 Gustafson Harbor.
Thank you.
I just wanted to communicate the frustration that is felt by the harbor residents at the lack of transparency with the Bay Area First Step proposed location. Gold Beach or Brookings would be more logical as opposed to Harbor, where we have almost no law enforcement and already dealing with an increasing tent population, which doesn't exist north of the Chetco River. This drug rehab facility should have been the subject of public hearings by the BOC instead of us finding out after the fact when there's nothing we can do about it, such as an injunction or a temporary restraining order. Thank you.
Thank you. You were very quick, as you
That's my 2
stated.
cents.
Next is Georgia Cockerham.
Thank you. Georgia Cockerham, Brookings. During the recent April 15 BOC meeting, Commissioner Hollinger read an August 2024 letter he had recently acquired from the State Marine Board. The letter, written by the Boating Safety Program Director, Brian Paulson, was addressed to Sheriff Ward. When Mr. Hollinger read the letter out loud, we learned that one purpose of the letter was to bring attention to inspections during the month of August. Mr. Paulson asked for a review of the boater education requirements data entered into the system. There were no negative accusatory remarks in that letter. The Marine Board had not received complaints about the Curry County Sheriff's Office. On the contrary, I learned that within the letter, Mr. Paulson complimented the Curry County Sheriff's Office on its rate of boater contacts for the same month. This was a courteous and informative letter to the Sheriff's Office. Now, Commissioner Hollinger didn't just read the Informational Marine Board's letter of request to Sheriff Ward. He made a personal, blatant accusation that the sheriff's deputy had submitted, and I quote, fraudulent reports. Had the commissioner's intent been to better understand the occurrence, he would have communicated with the sheriff about the letter, as any professional, executive, level-headed public figure would do. Instead, Mr. Hollinger, true to his perceived pattern of having a personal vendetta against Sheriff Ward, used his position to publicly proclaim that a letter written about 1 month's reporting deemed the new sheriff's Marine deputy to be guilty of dishonest and deceitful behavior. Not only did Commissioner Hollinger make hateful and untruthful accusations against the Marine deputy and our sheriff's office, but he boasted about having sent the information to the Department of Justice. What an embarrassment to Curry County. What the commissioner won't read out loud to the public is the Marine Board Director's letter of praise that followed the subject letter, complimenting the Sheriff's Office on its performance by the Marine deputies. The only improper actions in reference to Commissioner Hollinger's claim about the letter were those of his own lack of research and his irresponsible reporting. You are a public official, Commissioner Hollinger. You cannot lead with integrity when you are so obsessed with vengeance. As we enter the budgeting process, my request is that you all leave any petty disagreements at home, and with respect for all Curry County citizens, engage in such process with integrity and professionalism. I will send this talk to the State Marine Board, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and the Association of Oregon Counties. I want them all to know that many Curry County citizens agree with their assessment of Commissioner Hollinger. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. Next is Lincoln Okada.
Oh, you just saved my 2 minutes and given it to somebody.
We don't allow that.
Good evening, Commissioners and residents of Curry County. My name is Lincoln Okada, a 7.5-year resident of Harbor, Oregon. Came here as a retiree with no interest in local politics. However, with my perception of mismanagement things going on here and lack of meaningful leadership in this county, this has caused myself and many others to question the motives and objectives of those in charge of Curry County. I personally have not lived, this is bad, but I personally have not lived in a county with this level of dysfunction. The lack of effective cooperation and communication in this county has resulted in many controversial missteps and wasteful allocation of funds. Not specifically just from this county, but I count it all, whether it's Brookings or the Harbor District. Just things are just seem like they're in disarray. Like I said, especially when I first got here, I had much better things to do. Although most instances of poor decisions and leadership shortfalls occurred before the current BOC, as it exists today, its trajectory continues to be consistent with the dysfunction of the past 10 years. Again, this is my perception. I have a list of things that I have here to back it up. I think you know what I'm talking about in general. So the main thing, and because we're in this funding or this budget loop right now, I haven't seen any closure with the 2.7 million that the Treasury Department says that that's unaccounted for. My personal belief is that even if the Treasury Department is satisfied with the disposition of funds, those responsible for the disbursement over the residents of Curry County a spreadsheet showing to who the amount and reason that this large amount of funds was dispersed during COVID. I don't think there should be a problem with that. And again, it's not just for the 2.7 that's in question, it should be for the 4.3 million. This lack of transparency likely contributed to the failure of the law enforcement levy that we just voted on. I watched the meeting of 2 weeks ago, and my perception was that the board appeared to lack a full understanding of the appropriations process. That was just, I don't watch all these board meetings, it was just my perception of what was going on there. And God forbid that you guys do float some sort of municipal bond. That should be like the last step, but I heard the comments and it was kind of like flippant, like, hey, let's look into floating a bond, getting more funds, because you're just stealing from the future. I can wrap this up. I just hope that law enforcement isn't on the chopping block again. It shouldn't be, because that is one thing that everybody in the county uses, whether they're a kid or the oldest person in a retirement home. So, in conclusion, the county in general seems to lack defined objectives, find objective actions, and they appear to be developed behind closed doors with opaque motives. Because there's a lot of stuff that's like, well, why are they doing this? And again, I have stuff that I disagreed with, but because it's this time of the year, I wanted to get this on the table. Before paying residents are replaced with bums, freeloaders, drifters, and grifters, the county should focus on providing a positive environment to reestablish what many believed they were moving here for. Because there's a lot of people, it's like, especially, I'm out of bounds here and I can't count on law enforcement to settle this. So they're going to be more prone to settle it themselves. That's where I came from. Otherwise, people will move away with their checkbooks. There are other places with natural beauty, good people, but no drama. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David. Lincoln? Okay, commissioner comments.
Did you want to address anything from anybody to start?
So, Lincoln, regarding the funds, the ARP funds that you referenced, both the incremental amount of a couple $1 million along with the bigger pot. So there will be an audited line item detail provided on that, and that's what becomes the public record. At least for now, what we've been able to do as we prepare to wrap up the year and provide the information suitable for the auditing is that we did outline that, according to the treasurer, all of that money had been accounted for. Now, that was brought up, I think it was it last BOC meeting or the one before that where we did that?
The last
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, that was part of the meeting. And fortunately, we have those all recorded on videotape, and I really hope that you'll look at that. And then I would encourage you to give one or another of us a call, and let's talk through if there are remaining questions that we can respond to in a timely way while we both wait to get the audited report, which is going to be the effort to finally close the book, both in the mind's eye of those that are responsible for this, but also in the mind's eye of our constituents. So please call once you look at it. Well, thank you very much.
Commissioner Hollinger?
Yeah, I've prepared a statement for tonight, so I will go ahead and read that. It is critical to recognize the intention of the Oregon State Sheriff's Association and Sheriff Ward in their attack on me. This is a targeted effort to intimidate and silence a duly elected commissioner through the deliberate twisting of state law. This abuse of power is designed to undermine my ability to exercise independent judgment and to represent the voters of Curry County. This is an attempt to discredit an elected official advocating for accountability and transparency, which is all I have done. Oregon law is intended to ensure justice and fairness. What we are witnessing is a deliberate distortion of the law intended to discredit an elected official and erode the public trust in those who sworn to uphold it. This community deserves better than the fear-driven narratives peddled by our sheriff disguised as justice. I call on every resident, regardless of any political affiliation, to critically examine the motivations behind this intentional act to deceive, look at all of the evidence, and determine for yourselves who is actually defending transparency, accountability, fairness, and truth. I will not be intimidated, I will not be silenced, and I will not allow the law to be intentionally manipulated to serve the ambitions of a few at the expense of many. That's my statement.
Thank you, Pat.
Is that's in reference to the recently
Yeah.
released
Yep.
letter? Got it?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. I will save some of my comments for the end.
Do you mind if I jump right in?
For,
Another comment?
oh, sure.
Absolutely. So, Pat, thank you for doing that. And I want to share that I've been able to follow for well over a year the dialogue going back and forth between the BOC and the department heads along with our sheriff's office. And it has been such a grinding experience to see such a beautiful organization have to go through an organizational knothole, as we have been mandated to do, because our voters are telling us more than once, you only have so much money that we're going to give you to spend to deliver the services. Some of those services are mandated and some of them are discretionary. But the budget is the money that they're willing to pay through their property taxes and other items. That triggered, in my mind's eye, one of the most significant and grinding reorganizations that I've seen in my 60 years of administration, management, and corporate leadership. It was a real heartstring puller when you think of the consequences that unfolded from that. And I don't say that in a way to disparage our constituents relative to what they're prepared to spend. They're the boss. We do what they tell us to do. But that said, I can compliment the leadership, both from the department heads, from the sheriff's office, from the BOC, for having brought us from the April timeframe, 2004, through the May timeframe of 2005. And I believe, and one of the reasons I'm serving, is because I perceive that we are far better in our administrative, our management, and exercising the fiduciary responsibility for which we have been given trust than we were in other periods of BOC. We have seen other organizations, other BOC configurations, where they never achieved the level of integrity, transparency, and accountability from the if you would, the newest, most inexperienced employee to the most experienced leader. Everybody has been through that grinder, and the ones that remain standing, I want to thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coker. I empathize with Mr. Okada's comments.
Absolutely.
That I agree. One of the things that I took this role for two reasons. One was to figure out the answer to public safety. Coming from the juvenile director background and in the juvenile justice, I understand the complications and the need. And I also was hoping to bring solidarity to county government in some form. If you would have told me when I started this that we would be locking horns with the sheriff over many of these topics, I would have thought that that's not possible. I worked along Sheriff Ward. He became sheriff in October of 2014, and I became juvenile director in October of 2014. And I would have not thought that to be possible. In an effort to better understand my job and to better understand where we are allocating funds in a responsible way, we asked for information that was just not going to be forthcoming, which I understand is everybody's interpretation of what is necessary, but when the people who are making the decision on those budgets request the information that they need to make sound decisions, it should be at minimum entertained. And unfortunately, that was not the case. Which is truly, if we rewind the entire thing, that is the tip of the spear of what started this entire process, was asking for information. And so, does it lessen the need for that information? No. At this point, it increases the need for that information. And we will continue to do the best we can with the information that we currently have. I will say that this year's one of the first years since 2013 that the county has operated off of a sustainable budget. And that is something that we can be proud of. And there was a lot of people within this county that shouldered a lot of extra duties to make that happen. And I applaud those efforts, as you mentioned. I do want to take a moment to address the letter that you that you made your statement on, that was posted earlier this week from the Oregon State Sheriff's Association.
Well, the letter was from the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, posted by Sheriff Ward,
Correct.
under the direction of Oregon State Sheriff's Association, per the, quote, disclaimer on Sheriff Ward's post.
So I just want to address some of the pertinent parts of this. The first thing I want to address is the allegations that Commissioner Hollinger's actions were in any way illegal. ORS 165.450 subsection C, as cited in the letter, is precisely the statute that indemnifies Commissioner Hollinger's actions. Using that in the context to allude that criminal wrongdoing occurred is at best misleading and at worst using the weight of the association as to intimidate an elected official. The information that Executive Director Svensson provided was clear, concise, and accurate. There is nothing inappropriate with what was shared during the presentation, except that it defied the stance of one of its members, Sheriff Ward. Commissioner Hollinger did not release the recorded version of this presentation in a public forum or distribute it to the public via any form of media. It was sent to Sheriff Ward and his staff to ensure they all understood the context in which the information was provided and the accuracy of the transcribed dialogue during the question and answer portion of the training. That correspondence was sent in good faith to put an end to the controversies identified in the declaratory judgment action and to get back to working together for the betterment of the county. I acknowledge that the question and answer portion of the training was not intended to specifically address questions faced by Curry County. However, when the first question was asked, Director Svensson asked, "Is Curry County in the room?" And Commissioner Hollinger immediately announced himself. Therefore, it is reasonable to believe that Director Svensson did know that he was responding to topics that have been in question and could be related to subjects currently being litigated. It is my hope that the long-term relationship between AOC and the Oregon State Sheriff's Association is not damaged and no wrongdoing occurred by any involved entity, Director Svensson was not wrong in his interpretation of ORS during the question and answer portion of his presentation, and Commissioner Hollinger was not wrong for reporting what he had learned at County College back to the board. And he only did so after calling Director Svensson out of courtesy, and Director Svensson requested during that call that the recording not be played, but rather quoted, and that request was honored. I perceive that the majority of this dissension may be an effort to shield Sheriff Ward from the awkward situation of the Sheriff's Association agreeing with the Curry County Board of Commissioners on this topic. And that is unfortunate and not a reason for there to be any threats of criminal wrongdoing or broken relationships between two entities that have worked together for an extremely long time. So that is my comments towards that.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Jay? And if it's helpful, it seems to me we've got building blocks here that contribute to our understanding of what Oregon State regulations have to say regarding the nature of the relationship between the board and our sheriff's office. Now, we don't need to make these things up. The direction, the building blocks are enshrined in Oregon State regulations. And I'm going to leave everybody that is watching and or interested those regulation numbers so that you can satisfy yourself in just a minute. But the numbers I'm going to give you can be summarized by saying that the board has its authority in statute to create and manage the county's budget, and that includes administrative matters for all of the departments, including the sheriff's office. It's underscored in the interpretations of these statutes that there has to be cooperation and communication between the entities in order to be successful. Well, obviously, we haven't seen the intensity of communication this past year, and we don't need to get into pointing fingers as to who's been stonewalling, but can we acknowledge that in the statutes, Oregon statutes, Chapter 206, 203, 204, and 241, that each of those complements the arrangement that our state legislature wanted to create between the sheriff's office and the county. It defines how we're supposed to get along, and that's the operative word. We're supposed to get along. So I do hope that people will take a look at the Oregon State rules, and once again, give me a call if there's something that you see that is materially inaccurate in my references that I've made relative to statute or the implications of those statutes. I'd be glad to entertain those kinds of comments. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Thank you,
one
Commissioner Coker.
one last kind of, I guess, reflection or thought in maybe putting a puzzle piece together with what's happening with the sheriff not coming in and talking with us or anything. But, this is through the Oregon State Sheriff's Association and the letter that they had drafted a couple days ago, I think this is just another avenue where I see the sheriff receiving some poor counsel, unfortunately. Intentional misinterpreting of the Oregon state law in order to hide and avoid transparency. When being asked difficult questions and being held accountable. This letter that they sent is exactly that. They're being called out in a difficult situation, and they immediately turn to misinterpreting a Oregon state law and using intimidation and their strength as an organization to silence me. So it's kind of an interesting observance.
Yeah, what it kind of, what scratches at me is that, as I stated earlier, nothing done on either party was wrong.
Right.
The information given to an entire arena of elected officials, newly elected officials, was accurate, and the sharing of that information that you gained in a training funded by public dollars to public officials and reporting that information back to the board
And sponsored by a public university.
was not inappropriate either.
Yep.
It's just unfortunately contradictory to one of their members' stances. And we will sort that out, and I do want to give you an update on that. So the declaratory judgment, I want to give a quick update
Yep,
on that.
please.
So as it sits,
Can you give reference to what you're talking about? Because not everybody knows what the declaratory judgment refers
the
to.
declaratory judgment is the suit against the sheriff, basically clarifying roles and responsibilities per the Oregon statutes. And here's where we sit. 4 attempts were made by our attorneys to gain in discovery. Those attempts were not honored. So after no response, we have filed for a motion to compel. That motion has been filed, and a hearing has been set for July 1. So depositions will come, and we will get to the bottom of this, to where it will be reducing drama, because there will be a finite answer handed down by the judge.
Interject here. The general public are pretty much like me. They don't want to see the sausage making. It's just when we call 911 for a legitimate request, we expect to see a response. Most of us don't want to hear regulations, such and such. It's just, we don't want to actually hear, and I have heard it, we're understaffed right now. Why don't you talk to the state police?
I understand.
That's just my-
No, I understand, and I'm going to try to prevent a back and forth, but yeah, I understand. And so I wanted to give you guys an update as we lead into that. And all right, we'll go from there.
And that date again was July?
First.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. The next thing up is consent agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the
Afterwards.
consent agenda as amended. As it's
Presented.
presented.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second.
I'll be
Thank,
back
thank you, C.
next time.
Thank you. I'll call for the question. Commissioner Coker,
Aye.
Commissioner Hollinger,
Yes.
and I as well. All right, next up is discussion action items. A, Rogue Valley Council of Governments Financial Services. Let me call in Director Fitzgerald. I think he has a piece on this.
Hello, this is Ted.
Hey, Director Fitzgerald, we're at discussion item A, Rogue Valley Council of Governments Financial Services.
Okay. All right. So we had gotten several bids from different. We reached out and asked some direction from Moss Adams for where we might go to get services in the absence of a on-site financial or finance director, and we were given several names. We followed up with them, and some of them were too busy. They gave us some other names, and then we had a previous contact with Rogue Valley Council of Governments. We reached out to them, and of all the bids, the one that I recommend is Rogue Valley Council of Governments, just because of the level of expertise they bring to the table, and also the price is way more than competitive compared to some of the others. I really did talk to some great people, but I'm looking forward to trying out Rogue Valley Council of Governments because they're relatively close. They can travel here if they need to. We're obviously trying to move in the direction of less on-site stuff for that we, to keep our overall costs down and move as much as we can through our Cassell program, which they're familiar with. And so that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I will, I have been working closely with Director Fitzgerald and Revia, along with Treasurer Facino on this. So essentially what we have is, we had Eric Itola that we contracted with to get us through this budget season. This is a long-term strategy for our financial stability in reporting and accounting. So the Rogue Valley Council of Governments seems very prudent. They operate with several different entities, government entities. And if you look at some of the costs, as Director Fitzgerald had mentioned, they are very reasonable. One bid, I believe, was as high as $400 an hour. And as you see in these estimates, you know, they're much more reasonable.
So is there a corresponding contract that we would be able to review, and when would we be seeing something?
My question is, if you'd like to move forward to that, we'll get a proposed contract back for you to review. But basically, the concept is that we wanted to reach out and see what was available and if it would fit our needs. And so, if there's a consensus from the board, we'll proceed with that. And I think that just one more thing I'd like to add. You know, during my tenure here and prior to that, the county had been suffering from a pretty rocky road in the finance department. People coming and going, people leaving, people receiving. You know, sometimes when you're in finance, you have to tell people things they don't like to hear, and that resulted in some, you know, people that were based locally being well, not feeling comfortable in the workplace really, and then leaving and leaving the county unarmed basically, and that's why that's one of the big contributors to the fact that when I arrived at the county as county council in October of 22, I learned that the county accounts hadn't been reconciled in just about 3 years, and it's hard to believe that. I mean, if you did that with your family bank account, you would very likely be bankrupt. And we're lucky that we were able to address that and get it cleaned up. And at this point now, what we're looking for from these outside agencies is we're not looking for that much work. We have the structure in place to generate our monthly reports that we need. What we're really looking for is basically just an outside set of eyes with expertise to make sure that we're not going in the wrong direction, and make sure that we're doing everything right. I like to always have third parties review our work if we can, just because we need those safeguards based on the hole that we're climbing out of. I want to build those in if we can.
So I'd agree. I would offer this as well as a bit of historical reference. So, you know, the finance, as previously mentioned by Director Fitzgerald, the finance department has been a bit turbulent since the county lost Gary Short. Gary Short was our county finance director for a very long time and provided a lot of financial stability with that. And when we lost Gary, or he retired, it's been kind of a revolving door, and each individual that comes in a lot of times wants to bring their systems with them because that's what they're familiar with, and it creates a new adjustment, and then we kind of fall behind a little bit. And this is a sound, long-term financial strategy that I think we're going to have to look at a lot of these alternative ways of trying to finance government with our current state of economics, you know. And so I think this is very prudent. I think it's responsible, and I think it's the right way to go.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we should proceed with this, and the the rates that are listed on here too are very good,
Very reasonable.
very reasonable.
Indeed.
So so I would say we should proceed with this.
So what I would do is we can have a consensus to give direction to Director Fitzgerald to proceed with creating a contract with the Rogue Valley Council of Governments.
Agreed.
All right, so I
don't think we need a motion right now.
But just
We just need a consensus for him to move forward.
I
And then
have
we
no
will
problem.
then have a vote on the actual contract.
Okay.
So if you're in consensus?
I'm in consensus.
I am. And thank you, Director Fitzgerald.
Well, not only
Thank you.
not only to Ted, but I also thank you to his assistant Rabia. Thank you to our new treasurer Nick Vicino, and I also want to make sure I don't leave out of this either. Is Julie Swift? She's been very helpful with our treasurer and with Ted and with Rabia and helping get a lot of the numbers cleaned up from the past, and so. We definitely appreciate all of your hard work.
We do.
Julie is a soldier. She's amazing.
She brings depth of knowledge.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so with that, there's consensus to move forward.
Yes.
Director Fitzgerald, please do. Let's get a contract in front of us to get this ball moving forward.
Will do.
I'm going to have you stay on for the remainder of this, and if you have any comments, just let me know. Next is the CIS proposal. And do we have any documents for this?
I have a printed off document right here. I don't mind sharing with you.
Okay.
So it's that one there. That's the proposal for it.
Okay.
So as you stated, it came to us from Able Insurance. But for those who are not aware, we're actually provided insurance from a group called CIS, and that's City County Insurance Services. And they provide governmental insurance as well as law enforcement insurance to the majority of Oregon counties and cities and other law enforcement agencies, first responders, other departments, et cetera. And anyway, so in looking at that proposal and what our cost is annually to insure our county it's a pretty gigantic number. And I know that this year, Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our premium went up 27 or 29%. 17%.
Yeah.
Okay, so 17%, which is substantially higher than previous years. And so, with that being said, here's where county college is again a benefit. If a couple of months ago, CIS did a presentation for all of the newly elected commissioners, judges, other high-ranked officials for counties, etc. And CIS did a presentation, and their presentation and their claim of services fell very short of what they provide here. And I had drafted their legal counsel as well as their board of trustees an email essentially calling out that they need to be working with our board of commissioners and with our legal counsel to go over their risk assessment reports of our county. That initial email generated a pretty quick reply, as we also had the support from the Association of Counties as well. And their legal counsel came down, met with myself as well as Counsel Fitzgerald, and it was the beginning of a new relationship with CIS and transparency for their reports that they do, not only for our departments, but also for law enforcement as well. And so that was an encouraging start. A couple of weeks ago, we were all presented individually, along with Counsel Fitzgerald, a risk assessment presentation from CIS and their law enforcement consultant who specializes in doing risk assessments for the jail and for road patrol. And anyways, I wasn't, kind of going through her presentation. Her presentation, in certainly my opinion, and I don't know about your guys' opinion or Council Fitzgerald's opinion, but I think it was a very superficial report that lacked risk assessment depth. Per their presentation given to everybody at County College a couple of months ago. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but I drafted an email again to CIS, their legal counsel, as well as their board of trustees. And I won't read the entirety of the email as it's very long, but it points out a lot of shortcomings within both of those departments within the sheriff's office, the jail, as well as road patrol. I outlined those as well as discussed them with their consultant who did the risk assessments. And I requested that they do a full new risk assessment of the jail and of road patrol, given that many items have come to light since they did their risk assessment report back in I believe it was the middle of August. And so we're waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have a response from them on their course of action to take in order to do a more in-depth and thorough risk assessment for our county to help protect us going forward with from exposed liability. So I just wanted to keep you guys updated on that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing. Basically, I read Commissioner Hollinger's email, and he focused mainly on asking for assistance in making sure that the county and Lexipol law enforcement policies that exist and that are in place to protect both employees and say inmates of jail, for as an example, but these are nationwide policies. That those policies are actually adhered to by our various departments and followed so that liability can be limited and we can perhaps at some point in the future start lowering that insurance cost.
And so this is another, again, vision of our governance going forward. It's looking at all of our contracts. It's looking at the areas where we have some exposed liability in order to adjust as necessary in order to save our county and well represent the responsibility that we owe the taxpayers who are paying for all of this. They are paying these insurance premiums, and so I want to make sure we're being fiscally responsible and diligent in our efforts to do so.
Well, I have had a chance both to hear the insurance company's report. I've had an opportunity to look at the letter that had been sent on behalf of the BOC to our insurance company with what we perceive to be methods and procedures discrepancies and superficial findings as a result of the discrepancies in methods and procedures. What I've come to learn is that there is significant financial risk that is embedded in our current processes and procedures, and there's only one group that's going to suffer mightily if something goes upside down, and that's our constituents. That's going to be our taxpayers. They will pay for conceivably all of the lawsuits that could come as a result of the jeopardy, because we are not having the kind of insurance underwriting relative to these methods and procedures with the integrity and the clarity that needs to be in order to protect our taxpayers as their client.
Correct.
So thanks for leaping in there, both of you, and getting that going. Thanks. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, keep us updated on
will.
the response. And
I will.
thank you. That we still need to vote because that was taken from the.
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the CIS/ABLE insurance proposal as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, I'll call for the question.
Aye.
Commissioner Coker?
Aye.
Commissioner Hollinger?
Yes.
And I as well. Okay, next is C, to discuss and approve IGA with the Marine Board. Who would like to start this one off?
I'll start it off. Why not?
Okay.
As previously mentioned in this meeting, I have been involved with the Oregon State Marine Board issue ever since last October, when the Oregon State Marine Board brought this to my attention. And anyways, so going through their new biennial contract, so the allocation is not to exceed $257,642 for the biennium. So that would be $128,821 annually. And I'm, in reading Brian Paulson's initial letter, and Brian Paulson is the Oregon State Marine Board's boating law administrator and boating safety program manager. He states here that with reduced funding on water patrols, please prioritize your program's efforts on life jacket wear, high-risk intervention, which would be pre-trip safety inspections done at boat launches, and also boat registration compliance. And for those of you that don't know, the Oregon State Marine Board this year had a cut across the board that came from the state in the amount of about 30% cuts across the board for their programs and the Marine Patrol program. So this allocation of funds is down substantially from previous years. But in reviewing contracts, I went through it and highlighted a few items, and regarding section 7, which is compensation and payment terms.
Do you have a page on that, Pat?
I do. It'd be page 44 of our packet. So compensation and payment terms and not to exceed. Reports are to be given monthly from the Sheriff's Office to the Oregon State Marine Board, along with their hours and a time card or just how many hours were spent for that program, whether it was on water patrol or shore patrol. But given the current circumstance of the ongoing investigation that was initially started from the Oregon State Marine Board into the integrity of the reporting that was done by the Marine Patrol deputy this last year, I have some concerns about submittals accuracy of submittals, of course. So, Council Fitzgerald, so I have a question for you. So I think as part of this contract, there should be a bullet point in here that will protect the county, I think it should be that the county legal counsel and our sheriff must ensure report compliance and time card integrity before submitting for reimbursement from Oregon State Marine Board.
Well, I think so. I think that while that might be a good idea, that's not realistic under the circumstances. Also, remember, the Board of Commissioners has no power to oversee oversee or even be involved in the supervision or ongoing management of the sheriff's office. So I look at this agreement and I see that it's signed on behalf of the county by the sheriff, and he's binding himself as an elected official to live by the terms of this contract. And I that's as comfortable as I can be with this scenario. This is the sheriff's job. This is not a thing that the commission can contract for. Now, I will be happy to review time cards as they're coming through. I'll certainly do that. And if I see a discrepancy, then I will be my duty to notify both the sheriff and the Oregon State Marine Board if there is a problem that I discover, which I will do. But in the meantime, the sheriff's got a job that he is sworn to do. This is it, and it is our job to cooperate with him so that he can perform it. And I think since he's the elected sheriff of Curry County, it's this contract is pretty clearly signed by him and performed by his office, and the oversight, to the extent that it's available for the county to do, we will perform.
Right, but the contract is, I understand that the sheriff would be providing the service, but the contract is with the county itself. In the statement of work, it does say the county agrees to these items listed here, A through I. And so, this is one of those where we sign on in conjunction with the sheriff to provide the service. Is that correct?
That's correct. We don't sign this contract, but we're bound. The sheriff is unable to bind the county in any manner unless he's working jointly with the Board of Commissioners. In this case, he's signing. You've delegated that authority for him to sign here, and he would be signing. He'd be binding the county to do that. And unfortunately, this is one of the situations that is problematic because the county is ultimately fiscally responsible for these. If you read the contract, you'll see that there's a specific term that says if work is not performed, if the county is not forthcoming and not accurate in its reporting, then the Oregon State Marine Board can be reimbursed by the county for any monies that they have provided to date. And so that's the risk. That was the risk that came to mind when we discovered the problems with the reporting last year. So just want everybody to be aware of it. And I mean, all I can do is tell you that I will be looking at any submittals by the sheriff's office, and our finance department will be looking at that. We'll be comparing time cards. We'll be looking at the data that is available to us, and there's actually quite a bit. If you look at the data last year, you could see that where reports were being. The Oregon State Marine Board has the ability to see where inspections are being made and where they're being reported on and so you can track these interactions really closely if you want to do a good job, and you can see what your department's doing, and you can see how they're doing it, and you can make sure that the services are being delivered in accordance with the requirements of Oregon State Marine Board. If you look, it was actually pretty easy to do a little bit of digging and see exactly what had happened last year, and that was problematic. So this year we'll be looking in real time as we go forward. I feel more comfortable with that. Wasn't made aware of it until that ability was out there, until the Oregon State Marine Board made Commissioner Hollinger aware that all that data was available.
So, real quick.
Yeah.
This is all under ORS 206.345, the authority to enter into intergovernmental contracts. And what we're discussing is basically that the sheriff has the authority to enter into contracts jointly with the governing body of the county on behalf of the county. So we are giving our approval for the sheriff to join into this intergovernmental contract.
That's correct.
Okay.
So with the mixed reports relative to the quality of the reporting out of the 2024 experience, I'm left with a reluctance to blindly press forward without some further understanding that we have the business controls that normally would fortify us from any damages. So in that regard, Ted, do you perceive that, or Director Fitzgerald, do you perceive that there are underlying systems and reports that are sufficiently robust that we wouldn't be surprised by?
I do, Commissioner Coker. I'll tell you what they are. For one thing, we've altered the basic contract, and the point of contact now is not the sheriff's office. It's my office. So any coordination through the Oregon State Marine Board is supposed to go through my office. So I'll at least be in the loop. We'll be able to look at that. Also, the Oregon State Marine Board brought this matter to the attention of Patrick Hollinger last year, and they got to get the benefit of Commissioner Hollinger's how shall I put it, his almost exhaustive doggedness. He does not give up on things, and so he was very clear in getting his message across to the program manager of Oregon State Marine Board. We're all well aware of where we are together on this, and we are committed, and the Oregon State Marine Board is also they recommend that we move forward with this, and they have, in fact, by reducing, although it's basically tied to a funding cut, the reduction in actual required services is going to make this a lot easier to manage, and it's also going to make it easier to perform these duties, with the staffing that is paid for out of these Marine Board dollars. This money is essentially intended to fund. I think it's 1.5. Originally, it was 1.5 deputies, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Patrick? Is that how you recall it?
That is correct, Ted.
1.5 FTEs basically to address boating safety needs and in the county, across the county. And so we'll be watching this year to make sure that that's more evenly applied than it was last year. And of course, we have our partners at the various ports who are also very interested in making sure that they're fairly represented with these dollars, that they're getting their money's worth. And I'm in communication with them. So I think we can look forward to a good outcome. But we'll be watching, Commissioner Coker, and we'll let you know as it progresses.
Thank you very much.
And then, and again, and reading Exhibit B, which is the boating safety action plan that was put together by the sheriff's office and by the two members that run the Marine Patrol. The program narrative that they have written is almost with several cut and pastes from the previous biennium's contract. And I know in many instances, a lot of those items did not happen. As I had also previously had conversations with the Marine Board regarding those. The only thing I could say is with some of this cut and paste over here, I hope this year they could prove us all wrong.
Well, here's my only concern is this. Last year, we received $183,000 from the Marine Board, and the total budget last year was $198,459 for the Marine Patrol program. This year, they are allocating us $128,000, which again, I mean, we're looking at basically a $60,000, a $55,000 reduction in resources. And the question that I would have is, do we have a plan for those resources? Are we going to a three-quarter a three-quarter time position in the
Right.
reduction? How are we going to manage the shortfall?
Well, and that was one of my next things I wanted to bring up as well, is that again under this contract, the proposed costs as presented by the sheriff's office, their total proposed program costs are $314,616. So they are going to certainly have to make some adjustments, as you just said. So I'd be curious to know what the new plan is going forward, because I don't think with those cuts they will be able to satisfy the program narrative that they have also presented in this contract.
I can ask the sheriff's department sheriff's office to provide us with that plan tomorrow. And absent a plan, remember the commissioners have the role of staffing every department. So if you're not given a viable plan, then you still have the responsibility you'll have to make that determination yourself if the money's available through the budget process.
Right.
So just so I'm clear, we received a much lower budget for the activities under the Marine group. We came back with our outline of work that we're agreeing to do, which is comparable to the work that we would have done in 24-25. And we're saying, according to these documents, our sheriff's office is saying they're going to do essentially the same amount of work for less money.
Correct.
So that's partly what they said. But they also submitted an operating budget well in excess of what's being reimbursed. So there's some incongruence in the paperwork, and certainly incongruence in the thinking behind presenting something like this. How in the world do you have an intelligent, rational conversation when the document argues with itself so mightily? I don't get it.
Oh, well, okay, 20-second timeout, sorry.
Okay?
I'm reading this now, and the $314,000 is the biennial contribution, not annual.
Correct.
So,
So it's just, they're gonna just have to shave off some
So
each year.
what it is saying here is that they're
Right, okay.
proposing that the county's contribution will be $85,000 over the biennium, so roughly 42,000,
42,000 a year.
4250
Just still a
per
big hit.
annually
Right,
to make this budget work.
right.
Which,
So we're short 42,000.
well, last year we budgeted it in our proposed budget. It's 15,000, but I had recently looked and I believe it was 30,000 that we ended up in our final budget towards the marine program.
Okay,
So but it's going to be it would be an additional. Either it's going to be an additional 30,000 or an additional 15,000, depending on where we were this year.
And I just want to remind everybody that this is a good example of if the county is contributing money into a cost share with that kind of, with the Oregon State Marine Board contributing the lion's share, that's if the services are actually delivered, that's money well spent.
Yeah.
Understood.
Well, and the thing is in their proposed budget, I guess the other part that doesn't quite work in the math is that, we were at 122 or 128 or annually. So here's the thing. So in the actual allocation for the biennium,
What page are you on?
42.
Okay.
The actual allocation for the biennium is $257,642.
yep,
In the proposed budget, we have in front of us, it says the proposed program is $314,616
right.
for the biennium. So that's a fairly large gap in this projected budget.
Correct.
It is.
Yep, correct.
And so, 260, so we're talking about 75-ish $1,000 difference
Yeah,
in what Oregon State Marine Board is saying they're going to provide us for the biennium,
Yes.
and what our staff are proposing in the budget. So it sounds like we got some things we need to square up on here.
correct.
Excellent. I'd love to be a part of it.
And Council Fitzgerald, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you shared with me a recent email from Brian Paulson from the Marine Board that said we were going to have those cuts, correct? And that the focus would be on less water patrol and more shore patrol. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's actually in the new contract.
Okay, so
Yeah.
again, regarding their program narrative, their safety action plan, I don't see how they could perform with what is proposed here, given that directive from the Marine Board.
Yeah, it has to be, they have to modify their action plan. That's correct.
I agree.
Absolutely. Because we write it and don't do it, somebody's going to want to hold our feet to the fire.
Absolutely, because if it's in the contract and
And you don't
happens,
perform?
we are liable for
That's
that.
correct.
Okay. So then we should, are you directing me to ask the sheriff for modified plan?
Yes. Sure.
Before we proceed with this? All right, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's the boating safety program proposed costs.
Mm-hmm.
That as well as exhibit B.
Got it. Okay. We'll just ask him to do a new plan that conforms with the reduced
Allocations.
allocations and also the modified focus of activities as directed by the Oregon State Marine Board. We'll do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank them for redoubling. We appreciate the additional clarity.
So I guess here's where it could get a little. We can authorize one of the commissioners to review these changes and make the agreement on behalf of the BOC so that the sheriff can sign this contract once it's correct.
I'd be happy
That way
to.
we don't have to come bring it back
Uh-huh.
to another meeting in 2 weeks. Does that make sense?
How time sensitive is it? I'm just not clear.
Well, I'm sure it has to be done before the fiscal year. And we would like it to be done by next week, so we have something in our proposed budget.
That's, we can stand on.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I would be comfortable saying that if Director Fitzgerald gets this information over to the sheriff and Commissioner Hollinger reviews it for the accuracy within the proposed budget coming from the Marine Board, that I would authorize Commissioner Hollinger to agree on behalf of the commissioners to move forward.
I'm fine, yeah,
Signing off on this.
absolutely.
It's been corrected.
Let's help them move it down the road.
You good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay and Pat. And thanks again to the sheriff's office for taking double duty on it.
Okay. Next is the public safety update. I don't have anything prepared today for public safety. So we will jump over that unless any of you have anything.
No.
No? Okay. Director Fitzgerald, County of Operations update.
The only thing that I have that's really immediate is that Rabia and I participated in a Teams meeting with Department of State Lands representatives today, and Kim Rendell, the city manager for the city of Brookings, with regard to our lease at Social Security Bar. And if you recall, I had reported that Department of State Lands was coming down to make a site visit. They did that a couple of weeks ago, and I was on site at the beginning of that, and they spent the day on the bar. They were taking measurements. They were doing assessments, environmental assessments. They were looking at high water lines. They were looking at evidence of vandalism and riparian area damage. They were looking at evidence of refuse dumping on the site. They spent all day, took a lot of notes. They're still working on that. They wanted to come together with us because they know that it's time sensitive, and they said they wanted to talk about some short-term solutions. And they said, we're still working on the property line issue. That's probably going to be a long scenario. Because there's a lot when you're figuring out where the property line of a private property stops and where it begins. It's all tied to the high water mark, and normal high water mark for the river, and that is kind of a moving target. It's very difficult to you sort of have to measure it from the other side of the river because the other side of the river is more steep and not being impacted by human activities like the bar is on a regular basis. Got roads and so forth across it, people camping out on it. So they said one thing that they noticed was in order to start making changes at the bar, the first thing they'd like to do is fix up the main sign because it's got all kinds of graffiti on it. It's hard to read in the first place, and they're willing to. Nobody's really sure who owns the sign. It's on City of Brookings property, and the DSL is happy to contribute money and time to help update that sign and make it more readable, more legible, and also more presentable, because that all goes, it's kind of like broken windows policing. You start by cleaning up the neighborhood and things start to pick up around it. They also were talking about, they said there were concerns that the sign would be re-vandalized, and I said that if the city went ahead and installed cameras on the city property, they could aim one at the sign, and you probably won't be getting much vandalism, because we will be able to follow up with quality cameras. We'll be able to follow up and cite people that are doing that kind of stuff. That's also going to create a record of people that are coming and going from the bar. And I said that's my recommendation, that the city put those in, and then and we can see what happens and how people adjust to that. And the city committed to doing that. They had previously committed to doing that, and then in fact today they had people out at their property out there by Social Security with a drone. They were determining the right height for the cameras and so forth. So I'm actually really I'm really hopeful that there's going to be by working together here, all three of us, all three of the agencies, the county, the city, and DSL. I think we are going to be able to come up with a situation that affords use by everybody in a regulated manner. And that's really that the DSL said, if we're not able to do that, then DSL's remedy will be to block access to the entire bar. So I don't think anybody wants that. I don't think DSL wants that. But I do think that everybody has to work together to get this done. And I think by the city taking those steps, I'm very heartened by it. And I wanted to give my thanks to the city for stepping up to do that. Once that's in place, the county's lease will then be we'll have a manner that we can enforce it. Right now, we don't really have any way to enforce our lease, just because we can't control, we can't, monitor who's coming and going and what they're doing. And so after we get that lease, after we get the cameras in place, then we can talk about the existing rules. One of them, one that exists right now, is that there's supposed to be nobody on the bar after 10 p.m. And so there are ways that we might need to modify that rule to make it a little bit more flexible, because one thing I learned today is that from DSL, since it is state land, you can't regulate. I had thought that if it ever came down to it, you could have a gate where people had access to, for example, like fishermen could have a key to the, could have an access code to the gate, and we could have limited access for limited use. But since it is state land, you can't do that. It's all or nothing. So what we really want to do is preserve access for everybody and have it regulated so that everybody respects everybody else's right to be there. And it's either that or DSL shuts it off. So we're working on that. I think we're going in the right direction.
Ted, just a question here. Is it possible to intermittently close it and open it?
You could open it. You could close it in accordance with the hours of like right now. It's supposed to be closed basically from 10 o'clock till, I want to say 5 a.m. So you could put a gate on there, and you could lock it and open it every day. That would be relatively expensive and time consuming for having somebody, if we had somebody there on site that was like, if there was an RV park or something adjacent to it that gave an excuse for somebody to be there, you could do that. But I really think that cameras, and then the ability to follow up with if there needs to be a law enforcement response, I would be much more comfortable being able to see somebody's license plate and then follow up the next day, so that we can not be calling out law enforcement at all hours of the night if we can avoid that. And I think as soon as people, I think there might be a few early interactions, and I think people would then probably conform and realize that rules are being enforced, and and rules would then be followed. So I have high hopes. I think that if a gate does go up, it's only going to go up by DSL blocking access permanently. So I think that's the thing we should all try to avoid.
How about closing it seasonally? Is there a bad time of the year when it's mostly cluttered and trashed?
People use that bar every single day of the year in one way or another. It is a very popular place,
Is he there?
and they use it. People go there. People go there and sit there and watch the river. People get out and walk. People are fishing. They're taking boats in and out at certain times. They're plunking in the holes right there. It's a very popular place. So what we have to do is figure out a way that all those uses are preserved and everyone, including the adjacent property owners' rights are respected. And I think we can do that. I think it's going to work.
Well, I've been following this pretty close with you as well, Ted, and we've had several conversations about this. And one thing I have to just appreciate you spearheading this now going forward, working with our other partners on this, but then also staying in regular communication with the property owners that are being affected by this as well. So thank you for all the time that you've spent on this so far, and putting a plan going forward so that we can, so that the homeowners in the area can have a peaceful and respected life on their property.
Well, they want to work with everybody too. They're aware that they moved to a multi-use, adjacent to a multi-use bar, and they're aware of it, and they're willing to work with people, and they're good people, and I think they do need to be respected, and the property owners and taxpayers in the county, and I think we need to do what we can for people in that position.
Agreed. Thank you for that update.
Okay, thank you.
I have been a part of the Social Security bar thing for quite
Years.
some time. And I will say that this is probably the most forward movement we've had on this topic for a very long time, because it always seems to sway to one extreme or the other, which is close it or not. And
Right.
This intermediary type of solution, I think, increases the livability of the area, but also allows continued use. So I applaud those efforts as well.
It's well known, Jay, that and you can read it on Facebook, I am the eternal optimist. And so I'm always hoping for a wonderful outcome.
Well, if it's on Facebook, it's probably true. Okay. Elected official updates? I don't, Matt, did you get elected? No, you're lucky. Okay. Commissioner updates. Commissioner Coker.
Yeah. Yay to our emergency management team here in Curry County. They have scheduled a Tsunami 101 class. It's a road show. It's going to be June 10th. I hope everybody marks their calendar. It's going to be held in the public library, 5:30 to 7:30, and it's time to burnish or polish up our understandings of how to take care of ourselves and our families and our neighbors. Similarly, on the emergency management side of the equation, wildfire season is approaching quickly, and ladies and gentlemen across the county, be sure and make certain that you've got your go bags, you've got your exit plans, you've got your safety plans, your grounds are cured and cared for, and also take note that the Red Cross is available for community information. So to the extent that you belong to a fraternal order, a church group, or anything like that, you can get support both from our Curry County Emergency Services Department as well as the Red Cross. And then one item here for my colleagues in the BOC and our Director of Operations. We did have, I had an opportunity to visit with Rabia and Ted out on Flores Lake. It was absolutely terrific. The goal out there was to have an opportunity to get the perspective on what's right, what's not so right about the property in terms of its current layout and operations. But more importantly, we were seeking some level of understanding in order to maximize the value of that property. It is an extraordinary asset that the county holds. It's worth millions and can be worth millions more with the right kind of stewardship. And I think the team left the other day perceiving that we needed to talk further about how to cure and advance the entitlement issues, the encroachments, the easements on the property, and that can be done really handily as an inside job by county staff. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about that soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hollinger.
Yeah, just a couple things here. One would be this last Friday, I had the opportunity to do a ride-along field trip with our local Forest Service District Ranger, Kaylee Clarno, as well as Forester Matt Timchak. And they invited me to come along with them and go drive through a lot of the Forest Service roads through our county and let me put eyes on projects that the Forest Service is currently working on, whether they're timber sales or stewardship plans and programs that are being worked on and have been done already in the past, and also to see the terrain and what we have to deal with when we experience wildfire in our area and how crucial road maintenance is in our county in order to fight those fires, but then also to see how critical it is to get the proper forest restoration and thinning in key strategic points within our ridges in which fire can move quickly through. So they showed me some very beautiful forests that, as living here for many years, I've never been up that high and that deep into our county before to see these beautiful trees and this beautiful land and see a lot of the beautiful work that they have undertaken, especially over the past decade. But I have a renewed optimism and in our local Forest Service and the leaders of our local Forest Service right now with Kaylee and with Matt. They are very much pushing as hard as they can with the resources that they have and the funding that is available to them in order to try and expedite stewardship, to restore our lands, to protect them from wildfire, but then also to accelerate the NEPA in order to do more timber sales and to do tree thinning to help boost our local economy as well. And I applaud their efforts in doing that. I look forward again to another field trip with them and to help them however I can and hopefully however we can in our positions here to leverage whatever negotiations maybe we can at the state level and the federal level to help with those efforts. To tag on to that, last week there was a Supreme Court ruling to change the NEPA, which was a fantastic step in removing red tape and bureaucracy in order to help expedite their NEPA process. And what the NEPA process is, it's a long series of surveys that range anywhere from what is the terrain, what are the trees, what are the conditions, what archaeological impact could there be, what potential risk could there be to wildlife and our watersheds. And all of those agencies and groups have to come together, provide their reports in order for the NEPA to become approved to move forward with the work the Forest Service wishes to proceed with. So the Supreme Court ruling was summarized very well today from a commissioner from Marion County, and she's actually running for governor, Danielle Bethel. And I asked her if I could read her summarization of this Supreme Court ruling on NEPA, and she, of course, agreed. So I'll read it here. So, did you know that over 60% of Oregon is public land? That's a big deal, and so is this Supreme Court ruling on the National Environmental Policy Act, which is NEPA. The court just reined in federal red tape that's been used for years to block projects like roads, bridges, wildfire cleanup, and energy infrastructure under the guise of environmental review. For places like Oregon, where public land dominates the map, this changes everything. This isn't theoretical. I've seen firsthand how the NEPA process, while well-intentioned, has been weaponized to stall or kill projects. In the Santiam Canyon, which is in Oregon, I've been advocating for wildfire recovery on public lands where hazardous trees still haven't been removed. We've had projects that started only to be shut down midstream because of environmental lawsuits. It puts recreation access at risk. It puts drivers in danger, and it costs real money. Any project we attempt to undertake with federal funds must go through the NEPA process. And that process, once meant to protect the environment, now often gets buried in lawsuit threats and endless scope creep. What should take weeks drags into months. What should cost thousands burns through millions. That's why this Supreme Court decision matters. It doesn't eliminate environmental protections, it restores common sense. Agencies no longer have to analyze hypothetical effects they don't even regulate. That means fewer delays, less legal gridlock, and a clearer path to get things done. We face a test in Oregon now. Do we take this opportunity to build smarter, faster, and more affordably? To finish wildfire recovery in places like Santiam Canyon, and these are my words, or the Chetco Bar Fire? Or do we keep layering on more hurdles and watching good projects die on the vine? We're proud of our natural resources, but protecting them shouldn't mean paralyzing our future. It is time to build the water systems, housing, energy, and transportation infrastructure our communities need, and stop letting bureaucracy stand in the way. That's a very, very good summarization. And I'm happy she let me share that.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
It's a really big deal for us being able to move forward. And in talks with the Forest Service, they are very happy about this ruling at the Supreme Court level as well, because it will make
Excellent.
their lives that much easier. So kudos to everybody there involved. And my last update, I received an email yesterday from our what is he? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Not our consultant, our lobbyist from Washington, D.C., Ray Bushager. Received an email yesterday from him letting us know that our jail funding has been pushed forward through Rep. Val Hoyle's appropriations requests for funding. He did mention that the funding hasn't gone through yet for Senator Wyden or Senator Merkley's offices yet, but they are hoping that those will also go through their offices as well. But again, that's a very big step forward, and Ted and I and Ray and their team have been very diligent on trying to get this very substantial amount of money for our jail in order to work on the many upgrades that are needed for it. So, some good news.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
I just have one comment on Commissioner Hollinger's. I was very disappointed in the Forest Service on the tour that they took. I asked them, and they did not manage to get Mr. Hollinger infected with a large case of poison oak. I thought that was part of any good tour, and
Thanks.
you're never going to get immune if you don't get it. Is what I say.
Well, I just wanted to know where the field trip sign-up list is. 'Cause
Me too.
obviously I don't get to find where that is. And, bring a sack lunch that day and everything.
You got two.
Oh man, it was a great day, and I look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid a few other people need to go first, Patrick. So
I know I don't want to hog all of the fun here.
Thank you, Ted.
All right. I just have a couple of updates. First off, I want to say thank you to our economic development team. They represented Curry County very well at the 84th Azalea Festival. The festival was well attended, and it was very good.
I saw quite the cool pirate ship in the parade too. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, there were a couple of good ones. Next thing is I want to acknowledge that it's I had the privilege of participating in graduation. It is graduation season, and I want to congratulate all of the graduates for the 2025 year. And
Absolutely.
wish everyone the best as they move into their new chapters of life, whichever direction they choose to move forward. And it is a time to celebrate. We have a couple of last thing, agendas. I want to talk about the agenda. So I'm going to request that we really work to minimize the amount of amendments that we have to the agenda. If it is not critical, as in time sensitive, then I would request that we work to put those on a future agenda so that all of the information can be in the packet to be reviewed accordingly, not only by us, but by the public. So I would just, we tend to get a lot of amendments, last minute thing, add-ons, etc. And I would ask that we do the best that we can to stick to.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but I would also say that, we receive new pertinent information on the daily basis as it's happening, and in the in wanting to be transparent with the public and bring these issues to the forefront, is important. But yeah, for maybe less pertinent or pressing issues, I would agree to. We can put them on the following agenda.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's whatever is wanted to be discussed by commissioners can be discussed. It's things that we have to take action on.
Sure.
Right? Whether it's in the consent agenda or in action items, that we have the ability to prepare, unless it is absolutely pertinent and time sensitive. But discussion items are discussion items, absolutely. And then with that, just a couple of key calendar updates, upcoming budget meetings, June 12th, 13th, and 16th. And June 21st is the Prowl and Growl K9 Golf Tournament at Salmon Run. I want to just acknowledge that the K9 program in Brookings operates almost independently off of the revenues generated from that golf tournament.
Oh, wow.
They use almost no public funds for their K9 program. So if you get a chance to support, please do.
Yeah, kudos to them for that.
Yeah. And with that, if we have nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:50 on June 4th. Thank you all.